I also spoke with Mrs. Weslowski earlier this evening about the status on that, and she will work to relocate your classroom so that you are in a secure place until that hardware arrives, which could happen any day. It could very well show up even tomorrow, for all we know. Well, it won't happen tomorrow because we won't be here. But as soon as the hardware is in place, we will certainly see that that is repaired. But in the interim, your class will be relocated. Okay.
Question? Sorry. Can I ask a question? A general question, which is maybe for Mr. Silver, Mr. Policio. How are repairs prioritized in the district? So how are they reported, and how does the Buildings and Grounds Department distinguish between, priority stuff and non-priority stuff?
I'll let Mr. Policio address that, but there is a new system that is in place that has actually reduced our turnaround time on when we get repairs and when repairs happen considerably. I believe that rate, Michael, correct me if I'm wrong, is the 75% increase improvement rate?
Yes, it's actually about 77%. So we prioritize. Let's talk specifically about Ms. Gold's classroom. So I personally became involved with that on Friday. On Sunday, an email went out. Monday, somebody was there. We checked on the status of the back order, and as the superintendent has indicated, it will be repaired very shortly. To answer Trustee McOwen's question, things are prioritized by safety is the #1 priority. By direction of the superintendent, especially on the heels of Florida, we did an assessment in every building for every door lock, every type of breach that we could possibly uncover by doing a cursory inspection immediately. We have documented that. We've given it to our security consultants, and we're methodically going through each one and trying to repair them, as quickly as possible in a systematic direction or a systematic way.
But is it clear for teachers like Ms. Gold, like whom are they supposed to report problems like this to in their specific building, and how does that make its way to you? I know you said you found out about it Friday, but the question is, how did it take so long to get?
Well, so there is the system in place now is an electronic system. It's done through the school due protocol it's a proprietary software that we use. So an email to me, which I remember seeing as well, that isn't the procedure. That gets put into a queue, and somehow that stuff, there could be a disconnect there. When it is done properly through the head custodian into school duty, it lives in perpetuity until it is addressed. It never goes away. It stays right on the screen, and it's in red. It is priority. Safety is always a priority. So that we see that constantly until we get it, until there's some resolve, whether we repair it, replace it, or whatever the situation is. It doesn't go away from us until then. An email can easily get lost in somebody's inbox. So that has been addressed through the principals, through the head custodians, at many meetings on the new protocol in place on how to get any repair done, specifically the security type repairs.
Thank you.
So last, what school, Ms. Gold?
A.B. Davis.
A.B. Davis, okay. Thank you.
Next speaker.
Our next speaker is Elias Gutzeit.
My name is Elias Gutzeit. I live at 351 Bedford Avenue. I have two issues to raise with you. I understand there was a conversation that I had with somebody who was at Lincoln School who made an observation that there was not a Black History program there for the month of February. I'm not sure if that occurred there since then, but I wanted to address the issue of history as an important subject matter for us. We passed a resolution in October of 2014 to establish the Turner Schools, and that the Turner Schools would be an educational center for local history, and that part of that would be a local multi-ethnic history. and there will be an annual conference coordinated with St. Paul's Church, and I know you've continued a relationship with them, but I haven't heard anything about an annual conference, and I would like to volunteer my time to do that. I would like to give you a concept paper, just a one-sheet paper. I was hoping it would generate some thought process that we could work together.
Thank you, sir.
I've submitted it in the past, and I guess you guys have had so much to do that this was not a priority. But it is a priority to me that our young people need to know what the history is here. People of African ancestry have 350 years of history in New York. There's a community called Lenape people who are the original people who lived here, who were the subjects of a genocide, which had something to do with why Ann Hutchinson was murdered. So I had suggested a program that identified the lengthy history of multiculturalism in our community that never gets spoken about. So the concept is there. It was just an idea. It doesn't have to be what we decide to do. The other thing I would like to announce is as president of something called Mount Vernon Board Campaign Action Committee, there's going to be two forums, one on April 18th and one on April 26th. The one on April 18th is going to be at Mount Vernon Heights Congregational Church, and the forum is for all people who want to be school board trustees. It's an open forum, and everybody is invited who is going to submit a petition to be there. It'll be at Mount Vernon Heights Congregational Church at Beekman in South Columbus. And then on the 26th, there will be a forum for the candidates for trustee of the Mount Vernon Public Library, and that will be at the Church of Jesus Christ Apostolic, which is at 340 South Columbus Avenue, which is in the middle of the 300 block across from Graham Elementary School. So I have a flyer for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Gutzeit, our parent liaison for Lincoln School is actually here. I happen to know that all of our schools did have a Black History program. Mrs. O'Connor, if you don't mind, if you would come up and share what exactly, just so that we can have it on record, what the extent of the Black History programs were at Lincoln. And thank you for being here tonight.
Hi, yes. I don't have anything formally prepared, but as the parent liaison, I was privy to what we did every day. Every morning, our students came up. At least 2 students spoke about somebody in our Black history community and their achievements and the difference that they have made to our society. We had every class do classroom projects, which were done at home with family members, then shared within the classroom. And to round it all out, we had a wonderful, it was absolutely fabulous, a drama club. Community came in. There was about 6 performers, and they did a live, it was almost like a concert, and it was called The Faces of Black History Month.
Yes.
And they went through all the generations and named all the various people and what they have achieved, and it was so engaging, so informing. It was like some pieces were done like a rap, there was some done like a soprano, and it covered generations of history. So it was really wonderful, and it was an honor to be a part of it.
Good. Thank you. Thank you for correcting the record. I appreciate
Mayor
that.
Davis joined us there too, so.
Our last speaker this evening is Thomas Keller.
Good evening. No utility tax in next year's budget. No property tax levy increase. Let's continue 0% for the 4th year, I think. The audit, I attended an audit committee meeting yesterday. This article last week in the Journal News was ridiculous, sensational. Mr. DiNapoli has to justify his existence. He does this repeatedly for the 700 school districts. I don't know how many municipalities there are in the state. As an example, the audit was from 7/1/15, I believe, until 4/3/17, say April 17. So he does the audit in the middle of a fiscal year, 10 months. at least one year, 15, 16, he had the benefit of our external and internal auditors, which should have helped him out. The 10 months of 16 and 17 were not audited, yet the audit continued through April of 17. I'm told that many of these things were already in the process of being corrected, and I was told that no matter what we said, they weren't going to change the report. Okay. Thank him and see you in 5 or 10 years, Mr. DiNapoli. Probably won't be treasurer then. Number 4, on a lighter side, I think you should congratulate the Boys Knights 20th straight year Section 1 title. Good luck on Friday in the regionals, I guess, quarterfinals of the states, whatever it is. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Keller.
That concludes public speaking.
That concludes public speaking. Reports from the superintendent.
Good evening, all. I do have a few things I'd like to share with you this evening. You've been reading in your weekly reports about the capstone project, which we are very pleased to report has been approved. This evening, I've asked Brother Muhammad, who has been a champion for this endeavor, representing the district and working in collaboration with Judge Armstrong and a committee of people, and I've asked him to provide a brief report to you this evening to explain and highlight the features of the capstone project. Brother Muhammad, Arthur Muhammad.
Good evening
Good evening.
to the trustees, the cabinet, and of course to the community at large. For those of you who don't know, my name is Brother Muhammad. I have been with the City School District for 9 years in the capacity of Youth Development Specialist. I also serve as the liaison for the district for the My Brother's Keeper initiative. And I've been asked to brief the board and communicate to the community the status of our capstone project. What is this partnership, how it came about, where we are now, and what are the next steps. As part of my work with My Brother's Keeper, I'm a part of the Mount Vernon ADP team, headed up by Judge Adrian Armstrong. ADP stands for Adolescent Diversion Part, which is a cross-systems collaboration consisting of the court, the school district, the probation department, the police department, the prosecutor's office, the defense attorney, as well as social service providers. We meet weekly and handle cases of 16 and 17-year-olds, mostly our school district students, that have been arrested for misdemeanor offenses with hopes to keep them away from the adult courts and hopefully not give them criminal records. So on behalf of the ADP team, Judge Armstrong submitted a letter of interest to the State Division of Criminal Justice for a grant to attend the School Justice Partnership Certificate Program offered by the Center for Juvenile Justice Reform at Georgetown University. Our application was ultimately accepted, and we, Team Mount Vernon, attended the certificate program along with other teams from around the country. During the certificate program, we listened to and engaged with national experts on subjects of school-based practices and policies, culture change, family, youth and community engagement, and cross-system practices. As a part of the program, the participants were required to develop and implement a capstone project. A capstone project is, next slide, a set of actions designed to initiate or continue collaborative efforts related to improving outcomes for youth. Our team looked very closely at our current policy relative to long-term suspensions. This is something that we looked at and we wanted to piece apart. And we concluded that the district's obligation to educate our children gets compromised by the following conditions. Number one, many teachers feel uncomfortable visiting homes to give homebound service when the adult is not home or there's no supervision. Many times when a teacher shows up to the home to offer educational services, the student is not at home. Often, students don't show up to the scheduled instructional appointments at the public school, and certainly the SRO officers know this. Many times, those students who are supposed to be at Mount Vernon Library are in the community waiting for their friends from their home school that they got suspended from, and they're involved in behaviors that got them suspended. And lastly, the library space is not always conducive to conduct student instruction. And so this was the challenge. So we said that the first part of our capstone project should focus on revamping the current alternative setting system for our students who are facing long-term suspension. We propose that the school district partner with the Mount Vernon Boys and Girls Club to be an alternative site for our students to have who have been long-term suspended. The building is suitable for our needs. There are 2 large classrooms that are equipped with computer labs. There's also a multi-purpose room or multi-use room that can serve as a pop-up classroom if needed, depending on the number of students, as well as a full-size gymnasium. So in addition to math, science, social studies, and English, the students would also receive physical education. Under the current system, when a teacher goes to the home or a teacher goes to the library, the student only gets those core subjects and they're not getting any recreation. So the Boys Club provides that. Also, they get social, emotional education, character education, as well as supports to address the behaviors, to support behavioral challenges. So when our group got together, we discussed what would this structure, what would this process look like. And so we know that between 8 and 2:30 p.m., the Boys Club is not in operation. They don't have any programming, so the building is available. We would staff, or we propose to staff it with an administrator, a school safety officer, a roving SRO, and a certificated staff as necessary or required. We learned from research when we went to the conference that school districts that have restorative justice, that have a restorative justice component built in to their policies have experienced increased attendance rates, improved grades and test scores, increased graduation rates, as well as a decrease in suspensions. And I think that's something that everybody in here would like to see in our district. Is that right?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
All right. The second part of our capstone project focused on developing a targeted reintegration process for our students to successfully return to their home school after long-term suspension, alternative placement, or incarceration. Sometimes we have students that did not get suspended. They did something egregious in the community, was arrested and placed in another setting, and maybe have spent 9 or 10 months in a placement facility, a youth detention facility, and before they would come back to the school environment, we want to establish something called a restorative circle. So currently, when a student returns from long-term suspension, they come with their parent, they go to the main office, get a readmit slip, and an updated schedule, and they go back to class without being briefed on the school's expectations or revisiting the behaviors that resulted in the student's suspension. So our capstone project calls for the implementation of what we call a reentry circle, and we would like to see this done district-wide. A reentry circle is a process designed to formally welcome back this returning student into the school community and establish a support system for him or her to, as they transition back into the flow of school. Reentry circles consist of students, administrators, teachers, staffs, community, parents, depending on the need of the student, where we go over strategies to help that student not repeat some of the behaviors that may have gotten them suspended. It puts safety nets in place, and in your folder you have a copy of what we have implemented at A.B. Davis in advance, thanks to our principal, Jennifer Weslowski, who's here right now, who's buying in the whole restorative movement. And so you can look at it at your leisure. And so those are the 2 points. So our group, after coming from the conference, we met with Dr. Hamilton about our capstone project, and he was in favor of our recommendations. He provided us with much needed data on district suspension rates that helped us complete our final submission. He asked us to consider expanding our concept, our capstone concept, to include a portion of students of our Mandela students who are very close to graduating but need a little extra help. We met amongst our group and we agreed that supporting our Mandela students was not a conflict. It didn't degrade the integrity of our initial writing, so we notified the committee at Georgetown University, and they consented that the addition was okay in to our original submission. And so I'm proud to announce that on February 13th, 2018, our capstone proposal was approved by the Center for Juvenile Justice Reform, and the members of the Mount Vernon team are now officially part of the CJJR Fellows Network. And I have one of the people on the team, Sergeant Jennifer Carpenter. Is she here? Would you stand up? Stand up. She works diligently. Judge Armstrong, as well as Luther Garrison, and not pictured is Malcolm Clark, who helps us with a lot of data. So I'd like to talk about the next steps that we have proposed for your consideration. Number one, finalizing an agreement with the Mount Vernon Boys and Girls Club. Dr. Hamilton is in talks with Mel Campos, who's the executive director at the Boys and Girls Club, and they have to just iron out some things, some fiduciary, some contractual things. We need to identify teachers that would be staffed at the Mount Vernon Boys and Girls Club who can work with that population best. We need to ensure the compliance with homebound instruction requirements. And then lastly, we are slated, hopefully, to start this at September of 2018. That concludes my report. I don't know if there's any questions. You can talk.
Very well done. Thank you, Brother Muhammad. There are no questions for Brother Muhammad. I know you've been getting this information in your packets. Do you have a question?
I just had a question about realistically the size of the program that could be accommodated there, and what ages or grades are we talking about?
We're definitely talking about high school age.
Only high school.
Only high school age. And that is in terms of the curriculum that we would be able to provide in terms of making sure that the core subjects were covered. And the number of students, it would fluctuate depending on who's suspended, how long they're suspended. But the key piece to this is really about the restorative justice and getting kids reacclimated to school as soon as possible and ensuring that they get their homebound instruction. So the numbers, like I said, will vary because on any given day, the number of kids who are out on suspension varies dramatically. The Mandela youngsters would then have this as yet another option available to them in addition to the options that we currently provide for them.
Will those students have the same options as Mandela as far as going out, getting certified?
Yes. Absolutely.
Are you currently using the restorative justice practices, or do you plan on using it in the future?
For this project, we definitely plan to use it for...
Excuse, can you please talk into the microphone? Thank you, sir. Sorry.
For this project, when we went to the conference, we learned about data relative to restorative justice and how it works, how suspensions, for the most part, don't work. It doesn't help our students' grades get better. They don't graduate. In fact, students who we treat from a punitive perspective, they are most likely to be the ones that are in the head of the line for the pipeline from school to prison. So definitely restorative justice is the mode where progressive school systems are headed.
Right. And so I just wanted to bring to your attention that our department, offers courses in restorative justice to teachers, and to community activists. And every year, in fact, this year, I believe it's May 5th, we have a conference which has been growing. This is the 4th annual conference, which has been growing in attendance from 50. Last year, we had over 200 people attending it. So, and teachers across New York City attended. So if you are interested in getting support, we could probably connect you to the person who's in charge, who brought it to the department, and who, by the way, lives here in Mount Vernon, a few blocks away from here. So, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Mohammed.
Thank you, sir.
Moving on with the superintendent's report, I know Mr. Russo will discuss this under his committee report, but I also just wanted to reiterate to the board, and Mr. Keller has also touched on it, that the audit report is posted on the website as required by law. And we've also posted our response to the audit since we were not given the customary courtesy of an exit interview. Generally, during an exit interview, and it's been my experience every place I've worked, after the auditors complete their report, you have an opportunity as an administrative body, and sometimes even with the board president, to present additional information or explanation of some of their findings. We were not given an exit interview until after the report was completed, at which time they were pretty adamant that they were not planning to make any changes to their report, which I took exception to. But be that as it may, the audit is available. We have 90 days to complete a corrective action plan. And since they would not change their report based on our additional data, we have provided online their report and our response to each item that they have indicated were issues that needed a corrective plan attached to them. They did say, and it was also reported, there was no evidence of any malfeasance or improprieties. And I think Mr. Keller probably summed it up much better than I could in terms of the audit, but that information is available for you. In addition, also been sharing with you in the report, but for the public consumption, several of my reports, we have talked about an issue relative to A.B. Davis and some considerable masonry work that will need to be corrected as a part of the work plan to be conducted at A.B. Davis. In anticipation of this unplanned work, we have decided to delay the addition of the Grimes Annex in order to address the A.B. Davis so that we will remain within the confines of the approved funds. The demolition of a Grimes Annex has been approved and will be funded and subject to the state reimbursement, so that's a good thing. In the interim, this will allow much-needed green space in the play area at Grimes Community, much like that at Graham School. So while I know the board is well aware of that, and I know it's been discussed at the various committee levels, I wanted to make sure that we shared this with the public and got that information out to them, that Grimes Annex will be, the current building will be demolished, and the reconstruction of that building will be postponed pending what happens when the masonry work is addressed at A.B. Davis. Also, Mayor Thomas, is he here this evening? Mayor Thomas was planning to present to the board this evening. Perhaps he'll show up later on, but that was intended to be a part of my superintendent's report as well. And lastly, it was about a year ago that Mayor Thomas started a conversation with me about bringing the SROs back to the district, and he initiated the conversation and committed to provide the funding for it. I am very pleased tonight to take a pause to give recognition to the school safety resource officers whose presence have been so instrumental in our schools with helping with mediation, prevention, and bridging the gap between the school and the community. As you know, often the issues that, particularly discipline issues that we face in school, often spills over from occurrences in the community, home, after school, and the SROs have firsthand knowledge about how they might be able to best help and help squash some of those potential disruptions in order to maintain an orderly educational environment for teaching and learning. So with that in mind, I'd like to acknowledge our SROs tonight and present each of them with the Nightlight Award. So Madam President, if you would join me at the podium. Firstly, I'd like to recognize the plaques. All read, the Mount Vernon City School District presents the Nightlight Award to Police Officer Shanti Johnson in recognition for your selfless dedication and support to the students of the Mount Vernon City School District. Very welcome. Congratulations. Yeah. Officer Philip Leonte. In training. Police Officer Linnell Jones. You're very welcome. Congratulations.
It's my niece.
Yes.
Niece.
Police Officer Michaela Henry.
Early in the week is best. Whenever it's good.
Police Officer Christopher Greco.
Monday or Tuesday?
Thank you. Police Officer Kareem Lloyd.
Kids don't want to mess with him,
And the girls love him.
I'm sure. Those arms.
Police Officer Joseph Lowe.
Smile.
Police Officer Carruthers. Police Officer Marilena Sofia. Detective Patrick G. Jerome.
Former student. I think I had him. Former student. Wow. Him or his brother, one of them. It's twins. Yeah, no, I had him.
And a special award, Nightlight Award, presented to Sergeant Jennifer Carpenter for her leadership in championing the School Resource Officer Program and providing a collaborative atmosphere to improve the health and safety for all Mount Vernon students, staff, and visitors. Absolutely.
Lieutenant Sexton is a huge supporter of this program behind the scenes, so I'd like him to also be, if you don't mind.
My pleasure.
Okay, you good?
Good.
All right, thanks so much.
What's left? Is this?
I know, sir.
Okay. Okay. So if we can get all the SROs in the back.
They mostly like at the high school.
They're at all schools.
Yeah, because there aren't 17 and
No,
there are 16.
but they're at they each do 2 schools.
Okay.
Some half days, some are half days, because most of them have to go at dismissal, have to be between the A.B. Davis, the 2 middle schools and high schools. So they make sure that they're in those vicinities.
They're regulating the kids.
You know, it's not, but I'm by Benjamin Turner. And I used to tell, they used to walk up the street, the middle of the street on South 3rd Avenue.
Yeah.
And horns blown. They have made such a transition to those kids. They walk up the street now because they're usually on the corner, offices, so it's not a lot of noise. They walk. But, you know, before I used to hear the honking of the cars because they're in the middle of the street. And the cars couldn't get by or cursing and all that. But almost all that has stopped. It's really has made a difference going up the street. I'm glad.
If you ask Reggie,
Yeah, well, we need that in schools,
We
but
certainly do. Taking the prayer out of schools was like, well, I learned the first stop, I learned the 23rd stop,
and I don't even know if he has a
superintendent of schools.
He only needs the amount to keep himself in office.
Real Christian and I said,
So, and then the
in
third
those
thing is,
days, you know.
Okay, yeah,
now you can't, right here.
he's quite all right, he's quite all right. A voicemail, I guess. Okay, maybe, all right, we'll check the numbers.
in case one of our people runs out or something like, I'm not gonna run.
It was that one man, wasn't it one woman that made this?
So I thought it was important to recognize our SROs because they are often our unsung heroes, and their contribution to our school district in the short amount of time that they've been with us has been extremely impactful, and I wanted them to know how much they are valued and appreciated. So that's why I thought the Nightlight Award was most appropriate for them this evening. And also, hopefully by now, the community has received our update in the mail on our progress on the previous board goals. As you know, we have established new goals, and we have shared with our community through a community-wide mailing this brochure, which gives us a status report on our goals last year, and it also informs our community what our new goals are. I don't know if board members have received this in your mail. You have? Good, good. That's good to hear. If you haven't, I have additional copies here, and there are some in the district clerk's office. And that concludes the superintendent's report at this time. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes. And school is officially closed tomorrow.
No. They're not excited. I think everybody's ready to go home now.
I know, right?
Meeting tomorrow happening?
At noon, is that going to cancel?
No, it's canceled.
That's canceled?
It's canceled.
Because I was coming to that.
I know.
Okay, so we'll start with committee reports.
There are no minutes. No, I thought I uploaded and I hit.
Trustee Zamora, do you have any committee reports for that committee you're on?
No, we haven't met, we only have the one meeting.
You only had
Yes,
the
it's
one
actually
meeting?
time for us to schedule another one. I'll give you a call during the week and find out what dates or evenings are available
sounds good.
for you. Okay?
Okay,
But yeah,
thank
it's
you.
time for another one.
Yeah. Okay, Trustee McGowan?
We met, was it 3 weeks ago? 4 weeks
Our
ago?
last meeting, our last school board
No,
meeting?
our last policy committee meeting, we met with superintendent to review our current status, and right now we're waiting on the business office to review the NISBA policies in their realm, which I know they spent a long time doing over the winter break. And once we get those back, we'll put them up for a first reading. We have the second reading tonight, and we can then vote to approve the policy on closed campus.
On what?
On closed campus.
Okay, great.
And I do, Trustee McOwen, want to set up at least a conversation with you to discuss the open enrollment ruling opinion we just received and how that might impact policy as well.
Sure.
Okay. Trustee Williams, anything from your committee?
No, I have no committee report. Just would like to acknowledge the parent liaisons and also give another thank you to our MVPD, our SROs, who just got the Nightlight Award. It's just really good always seeing them in the community on Grampton Avenue. They're effective. They just communicate. They don't stand out. They're not overly aggressive, and you can see some things could escalate, when you have a lot of numbers, but these guys are really cool, collected, they blend right in, and they de-escalate a lot of situations, and that's a skill. It takes a skill to do that, so they're doing a really good job.
Good.
Just on the community front, how did the reprise of Lion King go? I was out of town this weekend.
Oh,
right?
Unbelievable.
Was it sold out again?
It was.
Everything? Good.
It couldn't have gotten any better.
I
That
was-
one of the best shows.
Yes, I was at the Sunday, the finale, and it was packed. It was packed.
Good. I saw it the first time around. It was
Yes.
awesome.
That was, I was going to mention it, it was very good. Okay, anything from you, Arlene?
Sure, I don't have a budget committee to report at this time.
Trustee Russo, anything from you?
So there are two committees. The first one will start with our clubs. We are pushing ahead with our opening for April. We're posting advisory positions and making sure that everything is centralized so that can be recorded. The one thing that we wanted to ensure was that when a student is involved in a club, there is some kind of recording or the district is noting it so they can use it for their resume or their school applications. So we are pushing forward with that. That's pretty much it. We're scheduled to start in April.
Great.
Second committee, audit, a little bit trickier. We had a meeting today, and as Dr. Hamilton said, the information is on the website. There were a number of items that the auditors highlighted, and we've sent our initial response. And I think in agreement with Mr. Keller and speaking with Ken Silver, it's now time to buckle down and agree to what they want. So we've already started the corrective action plan, and these audits don't happen every year for every district, so these are minor adjustments that we need to do, and there were some positive recommendations. There were some nitpicky items, and we've identified those, but it's in this district's best interest to correct what they've asked to correct and explain that some of their asked for corrections were already in the process of being corrected. There was a large gap between when the audit ended and their report. So I think it behooves us to announce to them that we were already starting this before they highlighted that to us. It makes us look very good. So we're on pace to do that, and I don't think there'll be a problem with the corrective action plan and their response to it.
I understand there's another audit.
They're currently back in the district doing an audit on the EPC. And I actually want to talk a little bit about an agenda item relative to that in executive session as well. And by the way, since I have the microphone, I just received a text from Mayor Thomas. He is tied up with preparing for the snow and dealing with the Con Ed issue in the city, so he will not be able to make the meeting tonight.
Trustee Russo, on the corrective action plan, can you just, for those of us not on the audit committee, just how does that process work and what exactly will be, that will be brought to the board that we're supposed to vote on at the end of, it's 90 days, right?
Yes, they've given us 90 days. They've outlined the items that they want some type of plan in place to correct based on what the procedures were. In the works are a number of items that have already been corrected, so we just need to announce that to them. And then there were a couple of positive suggestions that we're going to look into, but that 90 days, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Silver, started very short time ago, so we're on pace to exceed that meet that 90-day corrective action plan.
Right, and you've already put together a very thorough, point-by-point response on each one,
Correct.
so.
Yeah, that response was our initial response to the way they handled it, and then this corrective action plan is essentially being amenable to their highlighted options.
Right.
So we're stepping away from our initial response and working on what they want us to address.
Okay. Trustee Ning, are you done?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you have another committee that you're on?
Probably, but I can't remember right now.
Okay. Trustee Ning, any reports for you?
Yes, the Education Committee met yesterday, Monday, March 5th at 8 a.m. to discuss 3 items on the agenda. And it's, the first one was about the STEAM curriculum at A.B. Davis, which will become the STEAM school, the International Baccalaureate, and the CTE program. Dr. Satish Jagnandan spoke about the choice of a curriculum called Textbook services, which support social studies, science, and mathematics through digital content designed for diverse learners. And those courses exist in middle and high schools in grades 6 through 7 and 8, and also in high school in Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2. And it's a curriculum that is in line with the Common Core standards, as it engages students with real-world problems worth solving while building math proficiency. It also uses a balanced instructional approach, combining conceptual understanding with procedural fluency and application to challenge students with rigorous and authentic tasks. The danger, however, which we highlighted, is in the potential lack of training of teachers in using such type of problem-based learning curriculum. But Dr. Satish reassured us that teachers, in fact, have received close to 180 hours of training so far. And again, when you apply PBL as a model, there is a possibility of a disconnect between the objective of the lessons and the outcomes. And what could be taught in one period sometimes take 3 days, 4 days, sometimes a week to be taught, and sometimes leads with to no understanding of such concepts. So such training is critical, and teachers using the balanced approach is critical, because mathematics is also about skills, students knowing how to do certain processes, whether it's in algebra or geometry or the other areas. We also learned that all K schools will become feeders to that STEM school, at A.V. Davis, and that students, in fact, have been taking in the middle schools living environment from 7th and 8th grade. So meaning they are taking the regions in 8th grade, so coming up with one science regions already in the book, and also Algebra 1 for the 8th graders. So, and they provide support in form of extra time after school. Presently, I believe they do it on Tuesday and Thursday. And such support will be also extended to all those 7th and 8th graders, especially the 8th grader taking the Regents exam. And so, contrary to some district, in Westchester or other places, usually students who are in these advanced algebra or living environment classes sometimes are taken out of these classes even prior to the exam for the reasons that they're not performing well. And this is a practice that we are against, and in Mount Vernon we want to make sure and have a policy that these students stay and are given the opportunity and the chance to succeed in these courses up to June when they have to take the exams. Because it's critical that they go to high school with these Regents exam, because it opens up the prospects of having them taking calculus in high school, which opens up the way for getting, high advanced credit, for college. And we all know that those AP calculus or their AP courses is an indicator of college readiness and of college success. So then we discussed the IB program. Dr. Natasha Freeman Mack presented sample schedules for grades 9, 12 for the International Baccalaureate, for the middle year program and diploma program to show the interconnectedness between these three. So they have a schedule, a sample schedule that's set, and I was very impressed by the level of preparedness of the people who are doing the underground work, to make Mount Vernon the success it is becoming right now. And Dr. Hamilton, we would like to congratulate you and Dr. Gorman, really, and your whole team, for putting together this work, planning well ahead of time. And it is really a pleasure to see the change in attitude, the change in belief, the change in culture that's taking place in Mount Vernon schools. Finally, Dr. Sherry Ward presented a very exciting news about collaboration with Habitat for Humanity to renovate the greenhouse in Mount Vernon High School. And so Habitat for Humanity, I believe, agreed to give, woods so that they could build those boxes, outside, and rebuild and renovate the greenhouse. And they have projects to get farms to table food, that concept, and they already spoken to the school, food partners, I believe, Sudeso. And so, in fact, they want, perhaps students to be involved, they want to create clubs, for building these houses. And I asked her if there were courses, in fact, leading, for construction. So far we do not have that, but it's in the plan, maybe architecture, construction, because these are option and good option for our students who are in the CTEs program. And he also said that Habitat for Humanity is not just for building houses, but they also look at the different needs of cities. So it's very exciting to be in Mount Vernon right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Name.
By the way, I'm sorry, I want to call on the board, I think, to set a policy for this living environment and algebra for all middle school. It's time that we move away from the practice of telling students, you don't belong there, you can't do it. If we provide the resources in forms of extra time, in forms of teacher support, on weekends, after school, these kids can succeed. Yes. It doesn't matter the level, whether they're level 1, 2, or 3, And I'm so glad that Dr. Jacques Nanden, does share that same vision. It is something he would like to implement in Mount Vernon. So if we can vote, and then we'll let, of course, the administration decide on the structure on how to do it. Like the way they did the living environment, offering it to 7th grade and 8th grade, not just waiting until 8th grade to do it, I think is quite good because it does prepare them for 2 years rather than 1 year. So, and then when they go to high school, they go to chemistry immediately, can do physics and do those advanced science courses, which open up the door for STEM, in college. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I can add, proficiency in mathematics is one of the greatest indicators of future performance and job strength. So I think that's a fantastic idea.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Trustee Jaros, you are not on a committee, correct, right?
I'm with trustees Zamora on the restructuring.
Okay, so you don't have anything to report right
We
now?
haven't met this month yet.
Trustee White?
Yes, I'm on facilities, and, we have a lot going on in our district, and everything is moving the way it should be moving. We have the pool, we're just waiting for the final, to receive the final, from the Department of Health for opening the pool. We still have to do the locker, shower, and balcony, but that will be down the road a bit. We also have we had handrails added to the steps of Exit D. Pennington, the steel insulation is completed. Concrete is being poured for the roof and the second floor. There is a special inspector on site at Pennington at all times, and there has not been any issues. We replaced the sidewalks between Fairway and Devonia, I believe. At Holmes, we had the emergency where we had to repave the pre-K entrance. Mount Vernon High School, the central storage area is fully completed and in use. And every school has received the new garbage pails for the district, in the district. So we are moving on, and just a couple more years, we'll be zooming high.
Also, I believe there is going to be a meeting with Savin about some of the local people in the community for jobs on the bond?
Yes.
Do you remember what day that is?
So Ken Silver can respond to
Respond
that.
to that,
Yes, we've
yeah.
been looking at creating another forum, another opportunity for Mount Vernon residents who are credentialed and have an interest in working on the bond or being a part of the bond. So we're opening the doors again, and I'm sorry, I stole your thunder. Go ahead.
So we've been meeting with several community members, and also Dwayne, who used to be the head of the Chamber of Commerce, and we're going to have another forum such as we had several years ago, inviting companies and individuals to come to meet with our contractors, except this time, we're actually going to have our contractors here in this room on March 20th at 9 o'clock in the morning. And we're inviting, through flyers that are being done by this community group, anyone who feels they could participate in some of our labor. These would be individuals, and we've also invited smaller companies who might be interested in being subs of larger companies in the process. We're going to be training people, or trying to train people, in how to get bonding, how to get their insurance, and how to become a part of the bond. So the stated purpose of this is to try to have 30% of the bond money stay in Mount Vernon, whereas right now it's pretty much none. We did try this several years ago. We had very poor attendance, very little outcome, and what I'm told is that people just don't trust us. And so this time, we're going to try to do a better job, and we're hoping for a good outcome.
Thank you. And might I add a request from facilities to have a handrail coming down the side of the Mount Vernon High School auditorium? You know, where I sneak in on the side? There's no rail there. You know, your mother went down there that time?
Oh, okay, I know exactly what
You
you're
get a
talking
rail?
I
about.
thought it was one, only on one side, no?
It's no
I don't
rail,
think so.
it's no rail there.
Mike will look at that.
Mr. Policio?
I told
No,
my,
just,
I told my mother I was going to.
We'll just look into it.
thank you.
Okay. Is that it for you, Ms. White?
Yes, that's it for me.
On my committee report for special education, we had a meeting last week on the 28th, Wednesday, the 28th of February. It was well-received here at the district. We talked about after-school programs and summer programs for our children with special needs. We had people from Rose Simon. We had the Deputy Commissioner of Recreation for Mount Vernon City School District, the City of Mount Vernon. And we also had Stephanie Bellantoni here from Westchester Institute for Human Development. And they shared with us all the activities that children have with special needs after school and even in the summer. So they had discussions about the extended school year, the Rose Simon Day Camp during the summer, and also after school, so it was very informative. Our next meeting is going to be here at the district on March 14th, and we're going to discuss options for graduation and post-secondary planning. Also, today we had a Wellness Committee meeting, which we discussed updating our policy. We have a new Wellness Committee, we have a new policy that's just come down from the state, and we want to replace that policy. We want to replace the old policy with this new policy. We're still adding and tweaking some things to it. I know Gary Gregory discussed having heart monitors in the school. We talked about track and field, some more activities. Some of our children don't get enough physical education during the day, so we talked about that. We talked about making sure the nutrition guidelines are met even after school and in school, because we understand that there are some staff providing children with snacks at some schools. So we need to be mindful of that. So our intention is to have a policy, create this policy, and have the principals have the staff acknowledge the policy in order so if the policy gets broken or infracted or whatever, they can become accountable. So our next meeting is usually the first board meeting at 5:30, but we're going to have a policy for you to review in the next couple of months, if that's okay. And that's it for me. For policies.
Can I ask a question about wellness policy? Just, you made me think of it. Didn't we have, Dr. Hamilton, at some point in the last year, we had a new athletic director talk about recess programs in the district and how they
Yes.
were inadequate?
Yes.
I don't recall, unless I missed a meeting, I don't recall hearing an update.
We actually,
on our
as part
status
of our
of that?
budget presentation, you'll be hearing more information about that. I actually was briefed on it yesterday with the standards administrators and what the plan is in order to meeting that guideline. So once we finalize or at least get through further along in our budget process, we'll be able to share that information.
Okay.
Because it does have budgetary implications in terms
Right.
of staffing and supervision.
Okay, so that's it for committees. Right now, we would like to make a motion for executive session, and how long would that be?
Except minutes?
Minutes.
Minutes.
There's no minutes tonight. No minutes.
Okay.
We have, I'm sorry. Mr. Christoph, these are all, with the exception of one, all your items. How much time do you think?
Bless you.
About 20 minutes,
All
about
right.
25. Take me
So,
minutes.
25 minutes?
Need a motion to go into executive session.
Motion.
Purpose of discussing the employment history of person or persons, current or pending litigation, a special education matter, and
Motion.
And legal advice.
and legal advice from the attorney.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries.
Motion to
I didn't even see
reconvene?
what's up.
Motion.
Who made the motion? Was that Mr. McGowan?
Where's my
Second.
Convene?
My goodness.
Trustee Saunders.
Trustee Saunders made the motion. Second?
Second.
Trustee White.
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Blank screen.
Put my key on.
Mrs. Zamora is abstaining. That was just a return to public session.
That's it? All right.
You gotta abstain like that.
Are you unabstaining?
Make your vote, you can.
Motion carried, right? We're back in public?
So, did you abstain or did you,
I'm in.
okay.
Okay.
I just wanted to make
so
sure I got it right.
Is it
Do we really have to say yay?
move all the, 'cause
Yay.
I'm guessing right now.
To pull, motion to pull.
Motion to pull anything from the consent agenda.
I want to pull 813.
Okay.
Just want to talk about it.
Right, hold on a
Any
second.
other?
Hopefully the numbers haven't changed. That's
No,
the
that's
contract
the
with Reach.
contract with Reach, yep.
All right, motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion.
Mr.
Second.
Russo, Mr. McOwen. Oh, hold on, I'm on the wrong thing.
Oh,
I don't have, I'm reading by,
Russo and Mr. McOwen.
there was a mistake somewhere in one of the, there was a mistake, so I'm trying to remember, I wrote it down. In one of the items, I believe, it was either, that needs to be corrected, of course. It's item 7.4, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
The high school trip?
Travel
Yes,
to-
the number says 4,00 rather than 4,000. That was it. That was the only thing that I saw there. It's a typo probably, so it needs to be corrected.
4,000.
Is it on the backup? Hold on, let me.
Yes, in the backup.
It's in the evaluation tool.
Yeah, because I know the backup says 4,000.
Let me just,
No, I just wanted to correct it, that's all. I'm not making it an issue.
oh, I see.
Yeah, I'm not making it an issue, I just wanted it corrected, that's all.
All right,
I figured.
1 second, let me get back to where I was now.
Can you pull it? I just don't have mine.
is it me or is it? I didn't pull mine up.
Yeah, I was reading about it in the confidentials.
That's, okay.
I mean, in the super.
Let's keep pressing, right?
813, authorization to enter into agreement with Reach has been removed. Anything else? Once? Twice? Okay. There we go. All those in favor? Motion, I'm sorry, to approve.
So moved.
Trustee Torres,
Second.
trustee Saunders. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Here we go. A magic moment. Abstention.
Mrs. Zamora abstains. The motion carries. A motion to discuss authorization to enter into an agreement with Reach LLC to provide family and community engagement consultation from March 1st through June 30th. Motion?
Motion.
Trustee McOwen. Second?
Second.
Trustee Saunders.
Okay.
So I just want to confirm, what is Reach's current role in the district? Because we already use them for some consulting services, right? And how does this interplay with that? And I just want to make sure there's no overlap, and what you see as the role of this specific contract as opposed to the other Reach contracts in the district.
Dr. BC manages our grants and applications.
And this is budget, right? This is not a grant. This is budget.
No,
No, it's a grant.
This is grant.
It is
Okay.
grant.
And that has been approved by the New York State Department when we did our consolidated app. When we did our consolidated app, we started off with Scholastics to do the more theory work with Scholastics. So then they approved Reach to do the more on the ground with the parent liaison to go out into the community, to reach out to all the organizations in the community. So it was a two-part section to the grant. So Scholastics has already completed the theory. Now Reach is going to do the on-the-ground work with the parent liaison to go out into the community. So that is a part of a grant that has already been approved.
So how they're working with the parent liaisons directly to do what?
To go out and reach out into the community to see how we can get more parents to attend functions, do workshops for the parents,
Okay.
like educate them on certain things, on what is going on in the school in terms of the academic process of it for the parent, how to read the charge report card, what the use of the programs that they're doing, how to help the child with their homework, all of that stuff they're doing.
Right, and this is what we talked about, Dr. Hamilton. This is part of the outreach, the effort to make more outreach locally.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, thanks.
So REACH is part of the whole school reform. REACH is part of the whole school reform initiative, and this is separate and apart from their educational services that they provide for our schools that are on the list, whoever selected them as their partner for the whole school reform efforts.
Right, and I think I saw this is a 6-month contract, is that right?
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
And they also provide our outside educational experts to do our DTSDE reviews.
To do what?
Or DTSDE reviews.
What is that, DTSDE?
All the schools that are on the list have to do a DTSDE review every year, a diagnostic.
Which is district diagnostic state.
Right, school improvement stuff, yes. That's what it is.
District school improvement stuff.
Right. Okay?
If the superintendent doesn't know the acronym, I don't know. I don't know who would know the acronym.
Okay.
All right, all right.
So
you're
does
making me
that
look it
answer
up.
your question?
Yes.
Bless you.
You're good? Okay. So are you okay with it?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so motion? You need a motion with
We already have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries.
Okay. Is that it?
That's it. Just,
Any unfinished business?
Yes.
Okay.
yes, the policy. May I? Read it.
Oh,
To close
okay.
policy for the second reading.
Okay.
Make a motion that we waive the second reading.
Want to make a
Second.
motion to waive the second review of the policy? Second.
District diagnostic tool for school and district effectiveness.
Okay.
There's a motion and a second to waive the second reading of the closed campus policy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It hasn't changed.
All right.
I move that we adopt the policy.
Is that it for unfinished business?
And we have to adopt
There's a
it.
motion to adopt the
okay.
policy. We need a second.
Second.
Saunders. All those in favor?
Aye.
Yay.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries.
New business? New business? Okay, so a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Yay.
Everybody get home safe?
Thank you.
You.